performance improvement plan, or PIP, is a document that aims to help employees who are not meeting job performance or behavior-based goals. A PIP covers specific areas of performance deficiencies, identifies skills, training, or behavioral gaps, and sets clear expectations for an associate's future conduct. In this episode, we will discuss how to develop and implement such a plan. Hi, I'm Rick Kendall.
And I'm Fred Ball.
Welcome to Management Mastery. The purpose of these podcasts is to share what each of us has learned about good and bad management in our combined over 40 years of experience, both as managers and executive coaches. During that time, we've coached managers at every level in companies from Fortune 100s to brand new startups in all major businesses, including nonprofits, government, and education. So whether you're just starting in your first management position or are an experienced manager looking to strengthen your management skills, we know our podcast will be valuable to you.
The first thing that you need to do is to determine if a performance improvement plan is appropriate. It should be used with someone who you think has the capacity to improve. So you need to ask yourself some questions. First is there an actual performance or behavioral issue that can be substantiated? Let me give you an example. For a behavioral, someone is not doing a good job at building relationships. They're not a good team player, or they're not willing to help others when there is a specific need. And as far as a performance issue is concerned, someone may be too slow. They might not be 100% accurate. They might be sloppy, or they might not really have the skills to do the job.
You know, Fred, I'll tell you, as a manager, that is one of the hardest things to deal with, in the sense of, is this something that you can fix, or is this just a irreparable shortcoming, and you're just going to be making everybody miserable by trying to get somebody to change? That's really hard.
It is. There's no question about that, and it's why the thinking about whether a performance improvement plan is reasonable or not is so important. Is it doesn't make sense to do it if the person can't improve.
Right, but it's also important that, you know, if you're going to go to the termination route, which we'll talk about in another episode, you have to be able to explain, at least to HR, why this is not, and to be fair to the employee, why this isn't fixable, why it's just not going to work. And that's really hard.
It is. It is. So if you determine that a performance improvement plan is reasonable, you're going to have to start to do some homework, which we'll talk about. But you need to look at the performance deficiencies, including any specific situations, dates, what happened, and so forth, because when you meet with the employee, you're going to have specifics. You also have to make a decision as to whether you're committed to supporting and developing the person, as opposed to deep down wanting to fire them. But ultimately, what you're trying to do is to say, look, can this particular situation that I have concerns about, can it be fixed through a formal improvement plan? If it has to do with the performance and there are things that you can do to help that performance, then it may be a clear situation that you can improve. If it has to do with the relationship and the person's just not getting along with people, then it may not be the kind of thing that a performance improvement plan will help with. You want to take a look and say, has the employee received proper training to succeed at the task? That starts with the orientation. When they first came, was the orientation reasonable? Did they understand the situation at the company? Did they understand the culture you're trying to build? Did they understand what they needed to do? And then the other thing you have to look at is there a known personal issue that may be affecting the employee's performance? I have a situation right now where in a company where I'm coaching and the manager has someone in a performance improvement plan. It appears that the person in the improvement plan has had family issues where they were a good employee up until a year or two ago, but in the last year or two, the person's spouse has become ill, and they're having situation with mental health with one of their children, and that's an issue where if they can be supportive of that person through a period of time, he may become a good employee again. So you have to look at the personal issues as well.
Right, and sometimes it really depends on the corporate culture. I've worked at companies where they would go really out of their way to deal with things like that, and other companies where it was, either pull your socks up or get out.
That's right.
And once you've figured that out, then you've got to develop the plan for the person, the performance improvement plan, and that involves getting, determining and laying out for yourself and then for the employee what acceptable performance levels are and how the employee is deficient. You can start with the goals from the last performance review or from the employment agreement. What had you all agreed to in terms of performance levels? And what the goals were and the schedule, so you can lay out as clearly as possible, if it's a performance issue, where the employee is not measuring up. Then you want to determine a time frame to tell the employee for when the improvement has to take place. Usually these things run 60 to 90 days, so you want to figure that out. What's a reasonable amount of time to achieve what you feel the employee needs to achieve. And then you need to determine what assistance or guidance will be available from you or other members of your team or from the company more broadly on how to help the employee meet those goals. And then you want to have laid out, planned what the consequences are if the performance objectives aren't met. So that's developing the plan before you even meet with the employee.
I think that's right. Most of the experience that I have, maybe it's because it's more performance-related issues. More than half of the ones that I work with give the person 90 days to improve.
Uh-huh. Yeah, changes don't come easily for people unless there's something really in the way, or they've just misunderstood something, or they didn't get a piece of training, or they're missing some needed resource that you weren't aware of.
That's true, and that's why you have to use judgment in terms of how long you would give them, and you'll evaluate whether progress is happening.
Right, and I think you also want to review the plan to make sure that it's fair and achievable, and you can discuss with HR and get some perspective from outside of your immediate situation. Are these reasonable goals? Is this something that the person can achieve if they really want to? Did they get the tools they needed to begin with, etc.? So you want to evaluate it once you've put it together.
Then you want to to implement the plan, and that is to have the meeting with the staff member. You need to think about that. You want to do it in a quiet place. You want to do it at a good time, not necessarily a Friday afternoon, but you want it quiet. You want to make sure that there's no interruptions that are going to happen, and then you just lay out, just as Rick said, the planning that you've done. You want to let them know why you're in the situation that you are and how they can go about improving. And you want to be sure that you give you tell them what the problem is. You want to give the employee a chance to adjust to it. Many times they'll have some idea that something like this is coming because you will have talked with them in the past. You want to give the employee a chance to ask questions and to clarify areas of confusion. You may also, as Rick has said in the past, that they may have some perspectives that you haven't thought about that may slightly change what your thinking is. But you need to lay out with the person very clearly what your expectations are. Also, the amount of time that you can give them, and the fact that you are going to do everything that you can to help the person to achieve the goals. You also want to state how often you and the employee will meet to discuss progress, especially in the beginning. That may be once a week. This takes time. From your schedule, but this is incredibly important to them. So you need to do it, and you need to make sure that you have the meetings. And you need to clearly state the consequences of not meeting the objectives.
Yeah, I think I would re-emphasize the importance of having the regular meetings and sticking to that schedule, because they're not always going to be pleasant, and so there's an awful temptation to let it slip and not have the regular sit-downs. You can say, oh, we didn't have anything to talk about, or things were going okay, or whatever, but it shows that you're serious and that you're on the case, so you want to be pretty rigorous about keeping to the schedule that you've laid out.
I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. And the other thing, just to reemphasize also, you want to make this an interactive process, just as with the doing the employment agreement and the review process. You want to give the employee the opportunity to respond, and you want to respect and listen to their feedback that they're giving you. Now, sometimes it's just excuses, and you can see that, but sometimes there are facts, situations that you're not aware of. So you want the employee to feel that they are a part of this process, and it's not just a one-way street. And when they are achieving the goals, when things are going the way you want them to, and they are improving, then you want to give that positive feedback too, and encourage them, and make sure that they feel they're on the right track and things are going the way they should.
I find that it's a good thing in those monitoring progress meetings to encourage the employee to lead the meeting, give a self-report on what they're doing to improve and how they're doing that.
Right.
In each of the meetings, you want to be sure that the results are being discussed and the success should be documented. And if there is any gaps in the employee's training, you want to provide help as best you can. And then as we get toward whatever that time frame is that you had set, the 90 days, you want to evaluate how the plan, whether the plan's working or not. If the employee has achieved the plan successfully, you want to congratulate them and you close the PIP. However, what you do is you remind them that good performance is expected to continue, and you want to make sure that they understand that the good work that they've been doing while they've been in the performance improvement plan needs to continue.
Now, Fred, on the other hand, what happens when they don't improve, when they don't meet the goals? Then what happens?
Well, then you've got to take a look and see what happens. In some cases, and I hesitate on this, because you may look to say, perhaps this person is not in an area where they can be successful. And you don't want to transfer someone to another area of the company unless you are absolutely clear that the person's skills, ability, and temperament are better suited to that new area. Because too often managers simply make the problem someone else's problem rather than dealing with it themselves.
That is really, it's all too common, and I agree with you that if you transfer somebody, I mean, sometimes the employee will go looking for a job somewhere else, and the manager is all too happy to go, oh, fine, go, and that's just not fair to the hiring manager in another department if they take them, unless, as you said, their skills really are more appropriate for that department.
Yep.
And then there's always demote them. I mean, it may be that this person has moved up too quickly and it is really in over their head and really needs to step back and start at a lower level and work their way up. That's not always an easy conversation to have, but sometimes that's the alternative.
And then if the person truly doesn't show progress during this period of time, then termination may be in order, and it may be the best option for everyone, including the employee. We'll cover that in a future episode. But then there's the other issue. What happens if the person is making progress, but they're falling short, but you can see that they are absolutely trying to improve? There's nothing hard and fast about the 60 or 90 days. You might then extend the time that they have to improve.
Yeah, that's really a judgment call, but absolutely, there's no nothing's written in stone in terms of the time. It's just if people think they have unlimited time, then they'll just put off what they have to do. So yeah. So in this podcast, we've discussed the process of determining if someone who is underproducing should be put into a performance improvement plan and the steps you need to follow to help the person to be successful. We hope you have found this podcast useful and will come back again for more management mastery. If you have any comments about this or any of our episodes, or would like to find out more about our other services, including one-on-one coaching and group seminars for managers, visit our website at careercoachclass.com. Thanks for listening.